Kesubos Daf Samach contains a number of shailas, machleksin, and questions on the topic of a woman's obligation to nurse her child. If she has the child, one of her obligations to her husband is to nurse the child, which we have seen in the Mishnah, that he cannot force her to continue to nurse the child after they get divorced, because she no longer has any obligations to him. However, if there's a sakana to the child's life, which would be if the child won't nurse from anybody else because he already recognizes his mother and wants to nurse from her, then he pays her for her services. That is, the father pays her for her services, but she cannot refuse to nurse him. So the Gemara asks, how long does it take for a child to recognize its mother that we can assume, or we can chalk up his refusal to eat to her being recognized by him and he only wants to nurse from her? So the Gemara brings down her opinions here. The Gemara says that Rava said in the name of Rav Yirmi bar Abba, in the name of Rav, that it's from 3 months. It takes at least 3 months for the child to be able to recognize his mother and develop that relationship. Shmuel said 30 days. Rabbi Yitzchak said Rabbi Yochanan 50 days. Now, so the Gemara says that Rav Simi bar Abai said the halacha is like Rabbi Yitzchak, name of Rabbi Yochanan, that it was 50 days. The Gemara asks, I understand Rabbi Yitzchak's 50 days. It could be that a child takes that long. I understand the opinion says 3 months. It could be that it takes even longer, or maybe they're not even arguing. There's different children take longer or shorter. It depends on the personality and the acumen of the child. And they're just talking about what the standard might be. But how could somebody say 30 days? Shmuel said 30 days, that's a little hard to hear. And the Gemara indeed brings this as an alternate report. Rami bar Cheskel came and he said, don't listen to what my brother Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel. There's a few things that he said this about. He didn't say over Shmuel's halacha correctly. Shmuel never said 30 days. Shmuel said any time. There is no standard. There is no assumption. However long it takes, it takes. Now the Gemara brings an instance that there was someone who came before Shmuel with Rav Dimi bar Yosef, and this was a woman who did not want to nurse the child. And the question was, does the child recognize her, and will the child not nurse from anyone else? So Shmuel told Rav Dimi bar Yosef, go do an experiment, find out. So he got a row of women to sit down, and he brought the child into their laps one at a time to see which one the child recognized. So when the baby came to the lap of the mother, so the child was looking up at the mother's eyes, she turned the head away so that he wouldn't recognize her. And apparently he did, or they were able to tell that he did. So he said, look at your child, lower your eyes, or lift up your eyes to his, do not turn your eyes away. Take your son and nurse him, because obviously he recognizes you. Now, the Gemara says, if it's a blind child, how does he recognize? Can't see. The Gemara answers by the scent and by the flavor of the milk itself. Okay. Now, the Gemara brings a brisa to discuss the topic of what happens when is there an age at which the child should not be nursing anymore? Is there an age at which the milk becomes usher? The Gemara will discuss generally, is there an isser on the milk of a human? So the Gemara brings a brisa that says the child can nurse for 24 months, it's 2 years. Afterwards, the milk is usher. It's like the milk of a tamei animal. So Gemara says that's the opinion. That is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yeshua says even until 4 or 5 years old, there isn't any issue. He can continue to nurse as long as he didn't stop for a significant amount of time. The Gemara says later that significant amount of time is 3 days. Gemara brings a brisa and a statement of Yehuda bar Chaviv and Shmuel. That's 3 days. So if he stops for 3 days, then he's not allowed to nurse anymore once he's 24 months old. That is, if he stops for 3 days under 24 months, no problem. Over 24 months, if he never stops, no problem. Over 24 months and he stops for 3 days, then you have a problem. Otherwise, he can keep going. So now the Gemara asks, how could you say that there's ever an isser of chalav isha, of human milk? I'll bring you a brisa that shows that there is no isser. So the Gemara discusses the topic of milk altogether. So the Gemara says, how do you know that what is the source that chalav, milk of a behemoth tameya, is usser? So the Gemara learns that, Rashi brings this, the Gemara here doesn't say it, it's the Gemara in Bechiris that says we learn from the fact that it says hagamal twice, that there's 2 isurim on a camel. There's the meat of the camel and the milk of the camel. Now, it does, however, say Kimalagira who. It says it is. That's an exclusion. That's to show that the isser of the milk is only on the camel. It's not on something else. What's something else whose milk is not usser? That's mahalchi shtayim, those who walk on 2 feet, meaning humans. Human milk is not usser. Says, why would I have thought that human milk is usser? So it says, I would have had a kavachomer if not for this. Because the milk of an animal, of a tummy animal, is usser. Now, a tummy animal is not tameh itself. There is no tumah on the animal. Tameh as in that it's usser to eat. It's a non-kosher animal, but there is no tumah. A live animal can never become tameh. The only creature that can have tumah while it's alive is a human. Humans can have tumah snida or all kinds of other tumah. So you may think that a human is more chomer than an animal because a human itself could be tameh while it's alive, but a tameh animal can never have tumah on it while it's alive. And therefore, if there's an isser on the milk of a tameh animal, it's certainly an isser on the milk of a human. So therefore, I need the pasuk of who, it's a gamal kimalagera who, to tell me that this only applies to the isser on the milk is only to a tameh animal, not to a human. Says, what about the blood? Is there an isser on human blood? Gemara says there's no isser on human blood, and you would have thought that there is. Why would I have thought that? Because even a kosher animal's blood is usser. So milk, we said, is mutter. That's because milk is not always usser at all. Milk of a kosher animal is mutter. So I could hear milk of a human is mutter. But blood is usser even in a kosher animal. But therefore, I would think that human blood is usser as well. The Gemara therefore says human blood is mutter. And there's a machlokas gersayis here, whether it's learned out of who, tameh who, or it's learned out of zeh. The word zeh that you have in the other pasuk talking about camels. Now, therefore, the Gemara says that human blood is mutter. It doesn't mean you can go around drinking human blood. So the Gemara is going to explain, is there an isser derabbanan? Do we make a gzeira derabbanan or not? So the Gemara says, on milk, we don't make a gzeira derabbanan. On blood, we do make a gzeira derabbanan. Blood which left the body, it's not on the body anymore, we make a gzeira derabbanan because it looks like other blood. Therefore, the Gemara says, if you have blood on a loaf of bread that you bit into and it came off your teeth, you shouldn't eat it because it's blood that's separated from the body. However, it's dripping in your mouth. It's not an isser to swallow the blood that comes from your mouth itself. That's not usser. And that's the situation where it's important to know that human blood is not usser. So now, anyway, we have a contradiction here because here it's clear that human milk is mutter, and in our brisa we said that human milk is usser. So the more answer is that the difference is whether it's coming out of the mother directly or it's already removed and it's in a cup. And the halacha here is actually the opposite. If it's in a cup, then it's mutter. To nurse directly from the mother for an adult or for someone who's not a child, as we've said before what the halachos are, there it is going to be usser. All right, now that Gemara has a few quick questions and answers, the Gemara brings a brisa. We said that Rav Yeshua holds that it's 4 or 5 years that the child is still allowed to drink milk from the mother. So the Gemara says brisa where he says up until he's carrying his luggage on his shoulders. The Gemara says that's the same share. That's up till age 4 or 5. Says Gemara the halacha is like Rav Yeshua up till age 4 or 5. As long as it didn't stop for 3 days. Now, there are some other halachas relative to milk. The Gemara says that somebody who is in pain, he's suffering on Shabbos, and his refuah is to drink milk, he's allowed to drink it from the goat that provides the milk directly. Now, the malacha of milking a goat is mefarik. You're taking something out of a place in which it grew. Sucking directly from the milk is called klachar yad. It's not the normal way to milk a cow or a goat. The normal way is to squeeze it with your hand. Since it's only a klachar yad, it's only an isser d'Rabbanan, and since this person is in pain, the isser d'Rabbanan is mutter. The Gemara brings that halacha name of Rav Marinus. The Gemara brings that Rav Yosef says that halacha is like Rav Marinus. The Gemara says another similar halacha. As a brisa from Nachum Galia, who says that if you have a drain pipe which is clogged and you want to clear it out, so it's an issue of tikkun, fixing. So Gemara says you can clear out the clog with your foot, and that is a klachar yad. It's not the normal way to fix it. And if it's causing you loss because this clogged drain pipe is having water dripping into your house and causing monetary loss, the Rabbanan allowed it so that you could avoid that loss. Okay. Now the Gemara moves on to the subject of when is a nursing woman allowed to get remarried. And the problem, of course, is that if she gets remarried, she may become pregnant and her milk will dry up. Now, if she would be married to her original husband and she got pregnant, it wouldn't be the end of the world because her husband is responsible to take care of her son just as she is. And he'll hire a nurse or he'll find some way to take care of it. Now she's married to someone who's not the father of her child. He's not going to be interested in taking care of the child, and that could be a sakana to the child. So the Gemara says we have a brisa that says that a woman who is nursing is not allowed to get remarried, not allowed to get engaged or remarried. The machlek is for how long? According to the Tanakama, it's 24 months, and according to Rabbi Meir is the Tanakama 24 months. According to Rabbi Huda, it's 18 months. Now, what's the halacha here? So the Gemara says, first of all, the same machlokes appears with Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai says 24 months, Beis Hillel says 18 months. Shimon ben Gamliel says, I'm going to amend these two. 24 months is really 21 months. You get 3 months earlier, and 18 months is really 15 months. You get 3 months earlier. And the reason is because it takes 3 months for a pregnant woman's milk to be affected to the point that it can no longer help the child. So you could take 3 months off the cheshbon because even if she gets pregnant, as soon as she gets married, you still have 3 more months of milk that the child will survive off. Now, going into the halacha, the Gemara says, Ula says halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Mar Okva says that I got a heter from Rabbi Chanina, specifically in this case, to marry after 15 months. Gemara brings a story. Gemara says Abai had an aris, he had a worker, who came to him with this situation, wanted to get married to a woman who was nursing. So Abaye said, how many months went by? 15 months. So he said, first of all, the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda against Rabbi Meir. Therefore, the halacha should be 18 months, and you can go 3 months earlier, which is 15 months. Also, it's like Beis Hillel against Beis Shammai. So again, it should be 18 months. And Ula said the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, and Mar Okva said that Rabbi Chanina allowed me to get married after 15 months. So all these show that is halacha. After 15 months should be okay. Kal v'chomer said to you that you just want to do engagement. You just want to be ma'ares at this point. You're not even going to marry her. So he paskin for his ara said it's mutter. Anyway, then Abai came to Rav Yosef and he said, Rav Shmuel said not that way. Rav Shmuel said it's us. Rav Shmuel said you have to wait 24 months. So Abai realized he paskin wrongly, not like what Rav Shmuel said. So he ran after his aris to try to tell him that he paskin wrong. So the Gemara says he ran after him either 12 parsi, 12 miles, or he ran 1 mile in sand. Either way, he didn't reach him. He wasn't able to correct the psak that he said. Says Abai, based on that, we're establishing what Chazal have said, that even if you're asked a simple shaila, like is an egg usher in cheese, if your Rebbe is around, you shouldn't answer. Not because it's a chutzpah, the Gemara says. Chutzpah is not the issue. The issue is that if your Rebbe is around, then he's the one who should be asked. You're going to give a wrong psak. Like here, I thought I knew the right psak, but I obviously paskin wrong because I forgot that Rav Shmuel had told me that the halacha was 24 months. Okay, now, more on the subject of remarrying if she's nursing. So the Gemara says before the wedding, if she got her son off her nursing, then she's allowed to remarry. The Gemara brings a brisa that says that. How would she do that? So if she gave him to a wet nurse, a minekes who's hired to nurse him, or she weaned him, or if the child died, then there's no more problem. She's allowed to get remarried right away as soon as it happens. Now, the Gemara says Rav Papa and Rav Huna Bar Yeshua wanted to do an actual case like this. They wanted to allow somebody to get remarried in those circumstances. But there was an old lady who said, I had a case like this, and Rav Nachman told me it's usher. So the Gemara says, is that true? Well, we have a case where Rav Nachman allowed it. He allowed it in the families of the Reish Galusa. He allowed their daughters to get remarried as soon as they hired a wet nurse. So the Gemara says, no, that was different because the wet nurse could not quit. She's working for the Reish Galusa. She can't just decide, I don't want to do this anymore. However, in the case of a wet nurse of a regular person, they could just say, I don't want to do this anymore, and then it'll give the child back to the mother, and the mother now won't have any more milk because she's pregnant from someone who is not the child's father. Now, what is the halacha over here? So the Gemara says it should be pretty clear that we're going to paskin like Rav Meir that it's usher. As a matter of fact, what do you think this whole Rav Nachman thing the Gemara says? Rav Papi says we have a brisa that says a number of situations in which there is no concern that a woman's going to get pregnant, or that a woman is pregnant rather, but we still do not allow her to get remarried for 3 months after she left her original husband, because we're afraid, because we made a light plug between her case and the case of a case where she might actually be married. What are all these cases where she can't possibly be pregnant? So the Gemara says, number one, if she was constantly in her father's house because she was chased away from her husband's house, or she was angry at her husband, or her husband was in prison, or her husband went to Medina Siyam, or her husband was old or sick, or she wasn't at Kara, she can't get pregnant, or she was too old to get pregnant, she was an islandess who can't get pregnant, she was a katana, she was a child, or she actually had a miscarriage after the death of her husband, so she can't possibly be pregnant anymore. Whatever the story is, she doesn't have a womb. There's a lot of situations where she can't be pregnant. Still, the rule is loipuk. She can't get married for 3 months after the wedding. And the Gemara says that Rabbi Meir says that halacha. Rabbi Meir says it's mutter. Instead, get married right away. And Rabbi Nachman says, name of Shmuel, that halacha is like Rabbi Meir and all his rules. Whenever he makes a chumrah like that, halacha is like him. So obviously, Rabbi Nachman holds that there is an isser. So the Gemara says that the other ones said they were not aware. They did not know of this brisa that we have. And then the Gemara says the halacha is that if the child dies, then it's mutter for her to get married right away, because it's not going to make a difference. There's nothing that could possibly happen to him at this point. However, if she weans him, then it's usher. He may need her again, or we're afraid maybe she's going to wean him in order to get remarried. So Gemara says, Marbar Ravashi says, even if he died, it's usher. And the reason is because if that's an excuse, we're afraid she's going to kill the child in order to be able to remarry, because she can enforce this heter. So Gemara says, you may think that sounds like a wild concern. Gemara says there was a case that happened. There was a lady who choked her child to death in order that she should be able to remarry right away and not have this isser. And the Gemara rejects that. The Gemara says that's not true. There was such a case, but that woman was a shoita, and it wasn't because of a real issue that she wanted to get remarried. Normal women aren't going to do that, therefore you don't have any concern. The law is not like that. If the child died, then it's okay, she can get remarried. Now the Gemara talks about what happens if a woman is hired to be nursed. So the Gemara says she has to nurse only him. She's not allowed to share her milk with anyone else, not even her own child, not anyone else's child. If she's given food to be able to make milk from, and it's not enough, she has to eat more. And she's not allowed to eat anything that hurts the milk. So the Gemara has a few questions on this brisa. First of all, the Gemara says if she's not allowed to nurse her own child, obviously she's not allowed to nurse anyone else's child at the same time that she's hired. So Gemara says no, it's a chiddush. You may think her own child she's not allowed to nurse, because she'll end up ripping off some of her milk to give him and not have enough for the child that she's paid to nurse, because she'll have rachmanis on her own kid. It'll be somebody else, you won't have that concern. So Gemara says no, even so, someone else's child, she's not allowed to nurse a second child that's at the same time as the one that she was hired to nurse. Then the Gemara says, we said that she should add food if they don't give her enough. Where's she supposed to get that from? The Gemara says she has to figure it out. She has to take it from her own money. If she took the job, then obviously she feels that it's worth it. Now, she's not allowed to eat things that are not good for the nursing. So the Gemara says, what are those? So the Gemara brings a few examples. The Gemara says there's hops that they make beer from. There's grasses. There's a fresh young grain that's just growing. Small fish. And earth, which some people eat as a food. You're not allowed to eat any of those. That's bad for the milk. Abai says you can't eat squash and you can't eat quince. Rav Papa says even koira, which Rashi says is the soft things which grow around a tree, and also not kufra, which are unripe dates. Now Rav Ashi says she also shouldn't eat kutach, which is a type of yogurt, and she shouldn't eat fish fried in flour. Now, what's the problem with these things? Some of them stop the milk, and some of them make the milk cloudy and unhealthy. Now the Gemara gives a list of things that a woman could do to influence her child. The Gemara says that if she has tashmish near a mill, she's going to have a child who will have epilepsy. If she has tashmish on the ground, her children will have a long neck. If she steps on the waist of a donkey, she'll have a child without any hair. And if she eats a lot of mustard, they'll have a child who's very hungry. If she eats tcholi, which is a type of spice, then have a child who cry a lot. If she eats munini, which are small fish, then she's going to have children whose eyes flutter. If she eats earth as a refuah again, or clay, she'll have ugly children. If she drinks beer, she'll have very dark-skinned children. If she eats a lot of meat, she'll have fat children. If she drinks wine, she'll have healthy children. If she eats eggs, she'll have children with big eyes. If she eats fish, she'll have children who have a lot of chen, have a lot of radiance. If she eats celery, she'll have children with a real glow, with a shine. If she eats kusbara, that's parsley or coriander, she'll have children that are fat. If she eats esrogim, she'll have children that have a good smell. Mar says the mother of the daughter of Shvar Malka ate esrog while she was pregnant with her, and the child that was born was so fragrant that she was brought to her father, the king, as psamim before everything else.